So, hello everyone. We welcome you to our last meeting on self-care with our authors Fernanda and Mariana. It has been a very rich experience, I think, for all of us reading this book and engaging with the authors themselves. And we are looking forward to discussing the last two chapters on self-care and self-awareness and self-research. So just a reminder, we're all regulars here, but we are recording the session. Feel free to unmute yourself at any time or use the raise the hand feature anytime you have a question or you would like to make a comment. So thank you, and handing it over to you, Fernanda and Mariana.
Thank you so much, Michiko, and thank everybody for keep here with us in our journey. We believe sometimes not so easy, but it's very important and very profound if we can connect our perspective of self with our perspective of health and our perspective of evolution. And this is what we're trying here together, to don't split our health, our body from all other desires and projects we have. And it should be easy, but we are not educated and formed to this perspective. So today we are having our last meeting, and we are going to talk about the two last chapters of the book, self-care and self-awareness and self-research. And in next slide, we are going to see our topics today. We are going to talk about personal health reference, our self-timeline, our FEMA method, and some paradoxical responses in health, something that I imagine it would go in a way, but sometimes it doesn't. Our self-care canvas, and the self-research and self-awareness. So let's go. Would you? So just to remember, we are a result of three perspectives or three inputs. Our genetics, we receive from our family. Our paragenetic or astrophysical genetic, we receive from ourselves, and our mesology or our environment. So when people say to me, oh, I have this health problem, it's my body. But this body is at least a third part from yourself, from your temperament, your expressions, your feelings, even before this life. So I suggest you, when you say, my body, or it's just my body, it's a family problem or some expression that just reduce the idea of our health expression, to take a while and consider maybe you are letting something outside of your own analysis, because it's really common, even here in conscientiology, for example, when in theory people would be connecting all these ideas all the time, even here in Cognopolis, in Foz do Iguaçu. And sometimes people ask me, Fernanda, what do you do? What are you, how do you apply your medicine these days? And I say, it's curious, because I offer people volunteer services all the time to think about what they are, how do they feel their own health, but most of the people don't come back. And maybe I'm not so good in offering, or maybe people are not so really exposed to deep down this way of connecting health and and their own perspective of conscientiousness. But this is why we are here, right? Because it's not so easy at all. And we can go further because it's just for remembering. And when we consider just three perspectives, we have our personal health reference. That is about this idea of when I think of myself, when I'm having a health problem, a disease, how do I consider this in my nature state? How do I think about it when I'm alone, when I have to answer to myself and deal with my own discomfort? So we could organize this personal health reference in 4 groups. The first one is my health paradigm. We've talked a lot about this during these meetings. So what are my concepts of health, illness, and self-care? What are the rationales or health systems I apply in my own habits and my first ideas I do connect when I feel something different, strange? The second would be the role I play in my self-care, and I play with health professionals, family, friends. You know, when I get sick, I transfer the needs I have to a doctor, to a family, to a wife or a husband, maybe. And how are my habits and behaviors when I'm okay? And how do I have initiative, autonomy, and make some self-research during all the time? So we have paradigm, the holes, and third are, what are my main risks of illnesses to be prevented, or the prevention mode, the prevention perspective. Do I know my tendencies of loss of autonomy? When I have pain, I'm another person. I'm terrible. I'm, please don't come. Or independence. When I feel sick, I need my mom, or I need somebody to make my food, or I need somebody to be just supportive with me. Maybe we need that too. And how do I organize and my preventive actions? I know I need to, so I don't get sick. What are my limits in working, helping people, and my social battery? How do everything connects to my health? And last, how much help do I need to achieve my life goals? So my personal health reference in planning this life, how is the longevity, and how long is the longevity I do need to get everything I'm looking for, my productivity to be productive, maybe, and also how are the limits of our self-preservation and purpose. Do I need help for what? For how long, and with which quality to do what? This would be 4 perspectives we could consider to ourselves. Okay to here? Can you go further? So this is not a new timeline. We haven't seen it before in the first meeting, and also in some extra self-work we've talked about before in our previous meetings. But what are the points here is when we prepare, fulfill this self-timeline, it helps us to organize these other ideas we've talked about our history and connecting it with our personal health references. This is why it's important to to connect with your description of health in childhood or adolescent, or even organizing the illnesses that we have had, the medical practices we already know. Because if I don't think in a, for example, in a Chinese paradigm, when I'm sick, maybe it's because I'm not exposed to that at all. I didn't practice this perspective. Or what are the memories? How do I connect health and punishment, for example, in my family? And this is important because it will be imposed to us. We have to make a lot of effort to change these ideas because they don't need to be together, right? But they usually are in our culture. Or even being sick with don't having an opportunity, and we don't connect it, for example, with having an opportunity, but sometimes it is connected. So it's a good exercise to broaden our perspectives of health and our feelings when we are sick. Mary, if you want to say something, you are free, please. I'm just going on here,
Yes.
okay? If somebody wants to say something also, please. So the last,
Sorry. I would like to
Yes,
say that
Vicky.
I realized for the past weeks that in my sanity regarding illness, I have this thing in my mind that every time I am ill, it's something wrong with me and I'm blaming myself. And this is, I don't know, my quest and my desire to be healthy is like an obsession. And I mean, it's something about me blaming myself. And I'm always thinking, look, my sanity is wrong. This is me. I am the one who attract this illness in my body. Maybe my emotions are stuck, or, this is so, I mean, maybe this is because I have this thing of being perfect in my mind. And that's why I have this strong rejection about illness. I don't embrace myself when I am ill. Look, lucky me, I'm not, I mean, I'm always have been very healthy, but when I am ill, I'm not. I'm so low with my emotions, and because I want to be perfect.
thank you for sharing that. This is really, really, really common. And it is our hypothesis is people don't go further in their self-care because they stop in this step. And and it's okay if you are if you have this perfection idea. It's not a problem if you just change your mindset of this is an opportunity to be more perfect. Okay, I don't desire anybody to want to be perfect because it's not comfortable at all. It's not evolutive. But if you have this in your temperament, it's not going to change in 1 minute. But you can change your perspective of disease to connect with that in a more healthy or homeostatic way, because it's a big, big opportunity. We want so much to be better, to be more complete, and we are always also putting aside, oh, this is not me, I don't want that. So it's a really paradox we are living, right? Please, Kim.
Yeah, sorry about I'm having trouble controlling doing other things. I keep changing the slides when I'm trying to put my hand up and stuff. I was going to say I wonder also whether this idea about blaming ourselves, it's very old. It's a very old, like in pretty much all traditional cultures, there are beliefs about disease being caused by some kind of breach of taboo, something that I mean, either it's you're the victim of witchcraft from someone else, or you've broken some law, and that's why you're sick. So I think the sense of responsibility is really old in our ancestry, in our paragenetics probably, but also in our cultural sort of subconscious.
Yes. It's
Even
true.
if you all remember, we bring this line of healthcare and disease concepts back in the first meeting, because we have seen that basically when you look at very traditional ways of being taking care of people, like the traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, the disease and health, they're not apart, they're not opposite sides, they are in the same side. But then, especially for the religious time of the 1500s and that area where you start to have the Catholicism very strong in this idea of controlling the body, because if you're sick, it's a sin, then this is very strong with us. So it's something that you can even try to understand yourself. Is this some religious ideas that I have still? How this religion impact my health? Because it is very connected. It's something that you can try to think about it if you feel, because you said, for example, Miki, thank you for sharing perfectionism. I have the same thing. So when I get like a zit in I'm like, oh, did I eat too much chocolate? Oh, what did I eat wrong? Because now my face is gonna have acne, and it's probably because I did something wrong. And this is really related to perfectionism and stuff. But it can also be related, as Kim said, in our paragenetics with some time of our lives, past lives, and how we understand it in back times. And then we can try to reconnect it and think again and put this in the timeline. It really helps, because okay, so now today, and we have seen many people that talk about self-care, bringing this idea that if you are very good at self-care, you're never going to get sick. It's not the plan. You don't do self-care so you don't get sick. You do self-care because sickness is part of life, and you need to be aware of it, and you need to embrace it, and you need to be able to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. Because if you cannot take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of someone else that is sick? And even like today, we have seen many understandings of self-care, and the one that me and Fernanda, we have discussed it for a long time. That's why we brought it in these discussions with the bridge, is this one. And I'm glad to hear that brought these reflections, because it is something that we really want to reflect about it. And well, it's a journey, as Fernanda said. What are you thinking? Does that make sense, this timeline? And yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for sharing it. Mm-hmm.
And then when we do this process of changing our mindset about sick and health and disease, we are also preventing ourselves for something we're going probably to live, that is our third or fourth age, when we go old and we begin to have a lot of health problems, because when we are more than 60, we usually do have 3 or 4 chronic diseases. And how do I'm going to live well, to live in a good way with these problems that I'm going to have if I go so that far in my life? And even after 80, in the fourth age, when we are more than 80 years old, it's almost guaranteed. So what are we going to do with all of that too? And it's we can prepare for that too, right? And for our family, and to understand our family problems, our parents' problems in this way too. But let's go further. Our next slide is going to show something we could think about. Imagine we are preparing to be born. And then choose one trait of your temperament that you'd like to change. Think about what would you like to change if you are preparing to be born. Then list 3 illnesses that could help you to change this trait. Maybe some chronic disease, some immunitary disease, some anything. And which one would you choose and why? So this is the exercise. When we include our diseases in our perspective of evolution, this is part of the game, right? Sometimes we could include that, or somebody will include that for us. So let's be prepared. Let's do it. It's a good exercise for us to think. So we hope our discussion in groups are good. And just to remember, this was an hypothetical exercise, but if you have think it in a real disease you have, it's part of the game too. Our invitation for you is making this connection about the purpose and about the choice of being connected to your own problems, not just illnesses, but also your traits, your personality. Something is bothering you somehow, and make a connection with your own history and all the possibilities it brings to you. And now we are going to talk a little bit more about our self-care method, because in self-care triad, we have 3 perspectives we connect to deal with our own self-care: self-knowledge, or what do I know about myself? How do I react about my own health and illnesses? And what do I want? My purpose in life, our resources, what are the possibilities I do in my society, in my neighborhood, in my family to deal with my own health, and our cosmovision, that is about how do I comprehend all together my life, my objectives, my body, my family, everything, right? How do I connect all this idea critically? How do I consider the offers I have, the products, the pharmacy advertisements, everything, right? And for that, we're going to organize our desires in our FEMA method. So we find out what's going on, we embrace, we make some movements, some experiments, and we begin again all the time whenever we need. It's okay? This is just a review, because this is something we have already seen. And next slide, we are going to talk about something that is in the book, that are paradoxical responses in health. Because as we thought before, we connect being sick with something wrong. Something's wrong with me, something's wrong with my family, myself, and we apply this judgment for other people too. Oh, these people, I always knew this problem, not ready for life. So we make judgments about what's going on with another people and what does it mean. In Brazil, we have a very old volunteer that lived before in Australia. Probably some of you know him. It's Igor Cabral. Igor Cabral is in a hospital right now since January, and it's dealing with his health problem, and he was talking to us every kind of theory he listens about that, about what's wrong with him at all. People trying to understand what's wrong with him, and not what are going on. That is really different, right? What's going on? What's about this life, this problem, this health problem he has so young, because he's now 40, but he's dealing with a problem, I think, more than 10 years. So it's really interesting to consider these judgments too, please. And so let's see the 6 perspectives. And then I promise I'm going to stop talking and let Mariana talk a little bit more. But let's talk about the 6 perspectives. Remember, are paradoxical. So sometimes getting worse is getting better. We need to, our body needs to deep down that problem, to deep down our comprehension and our insights about something that, some opportunity that are connected with that illness, with this illness. Okay. This is a paradoxical response, because what do we think? Oh, I'm getting worse. I'm dealing with this wrong. Maybe not. Don't be so sure about this idea. If I'm worse, if it's going worse, I'm doing wrong. Maybe not. You don't control that. It's about destructive cosmoethics. And we always want to understand the Serenus Holochosen, right? But we don't want to apply this to ourselves in a tough way. Do you understand what I say about comprehending this idea of destructive cosmoethics? Serenus must apply in our planet, but we are not comfortable about applying to ourselves. So it's one aspect. The second one is slowness. Slowness is when a disease is going really slow, or is getting better really slow. For example, person have a cancer or have a surgery, and it's supposed to be good in 3 weeks. The doctor said, oh, you're going to work in 3 weeks, you're going to be good, your scars are going to be good, and then it takes 3 months, 6 months. This slowness is about organizing our body and our ideas, and adapting ourselves to this new mindset. Sometimes we need time to download a new mindset. And if the disease goes away, we cannot do that properly. Okay. If you don't understand, please let me know, because I'm going further. So we have also the reappearance. I have had a problem in the past, for example, a throat problem, how to say, like when we have a flu or something. And I have that when I was young, in my 20s, and now I'm having it again. And the last 12 years, I didn't have any flu or something. So I think it's a problem. Oh, because I'm going back in my problems. But sometimes reappearances are for connecting ourselves to something from our past, or to undo a way we did, to go back and rescue something that was in our past. So reappearance is not always a problem. It could be, okay? It's a paradoxical. Everything here, the 6 processes, could be a problem, but maybe evolutively they aren't. This is what we want you to consider, reflect, not just conclude. So we also have chronicity, that are the same idea of slowness. We need time to download a mindset, or maybe we need something external keeping us on track in our life. Oh, if I don't have this problem, I probably would die earlier. And we have studies in medicine and other sciences showing how people got more organized in their own lives because they have some chronic disease. It's really interesting to consider. So chronicity is something that's come and don't go away. You keep that, and it's your personal advisor about your limits, right? And we have also this one I love, paired illnesses. Paired illnesses is when you have a disease, then you get healthy again, then in 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, you have another disease, different. For example, a friend of mine that have allergy in the he have a osteomuscular problem in his knee. Then when it's going almost good, he got an allergy problem in the same knee, and also a problem like a mosquito bite, something in the other knee. So he talked to me, Fernanda, something's wrong. I think I have somebody that doesn't want me, that is giving me some bad energy or something. I said, oh, please, come on. It's a knee. It's about yourself. Probably not always, okay? But knees are really connected to our flexibility, our capability of bowing or acceptance of life. And sometimes it's a problem for him, or for us having two diseases paired so close. But the second is helping the first to have a better solution. This is a theory from Germanic medicine, and it's really interesting. It's applied to cancers too. And if somehow you could study a little bit more about that, okay? And we have also a paradoxical response, that is the terminal comfort. People in terminal diseases that declare says that they are really happy or really in acceptance with life. And this is paradoxical too, right? Come on, you are losing your body to a sickness, and you are okay with that. It's not comfortable to hear it from somebody, but it's about having a astrophysical or maybe evolutionary perspective more than a physical perspective. And we can be prepared not to live that, because maybe you don't live this in this life, but maybe to be supportive and to be assistential, or to help these people, because it's not common. These people feel alone because nobody understands them. So we need to consider that too. Okay, just 6 processes, too much, but let's keep going. And Mary, if you want to.
Yes, it's very interesting because they are not very so easy to digest, this paradoxical. ideas Fernanda brought, but they are very inviting to the steps we propose in the self-care canvas. So when we think about the self-care canvas, the first step that you heard us talk about, it's to find the feelings, the emotions, the illness, the therapies that can help and what is not helping at all. So when you do this, you have to broaden up a little bit your mind about this situation that you're living, because sometimes not the worst thing that you're having, you know, you're treating a cancer of a type of cancer, there you have a problem in your intestines at the same time, and you're thinking, what's going on? Because then you can think about the second step, that is embracement. So the meaning of this moment in my life, the situation, what brings me as a limitation and what is an opportunity. Sometimes we don't think of diseases as opportunities. That's why we did the first exercise, and we invite everybody to think about the opportunities of, you know, having a disease. And usually, as Fernanda said, when someone has a chronic disease, they need to be more organized, or if they have a terminal disease sometimes, and usually most of the times, if they have a very strong support network, they will be aware of the importance of life, because they are so close of losing it, and this is very important for them. So it brings them an opportunity to, you know, talk to someone they needed to talk, and they would not be talking if there wasn't a disease, or they would be, you know, valuing every little moment of life. And then you can do the movement, that is the changes that can help you to reach your goal of self-care, the possible solutions that you identify for this situation. And it's very interesting, because usually it's very common that people really have their own solutions, but sometimes they do not find some support in traditional or biomedical and other or specific types of care. So sometimes they need to change the type of care they are looking for. And also, how do I measure the impact of the changes that you must implement? How are you gonna, you know, measure it? Because it can be in a scientific way, in a systematic way. So you can understand if you're getting better or not in your self-care. And of course, the last step of the self-care canvas in the FEMA method, it's this continuum of self-care. So how do I measure that I've reached my goal? And which signs show me it's time to start a new cycle? Okay, so I'm more aware about this arthritis, for example, and now I'm dealing with, you know, headaches or a throat problem that I used to have when I was young, and now it showed again. So it's time to do a cycle. So the objective that we did during all the book and in the bridge encounters that we have so far was to discuss and probably to organize the self-care canvas. So if you feel comfortable about it, we have one exercise. Please, the next slide. And our next exercise would be to talk about it. So our next activity will be to share your self-care canvas if you feel comfortable about it. If you don't worry, you don't have to. But you can share maybe when you try to remember when you filled your self-care canvas, or at least one of the steps of the FEMA methods. What were the insights, the new hypotheses, and the relationships between ideas that emerged? And did you include new possible solutions and measures to monitor its effects? And after we reflect a little bit, in groups of 2 or 3, we could share notes. And if you feel comfortable, you can talk about your self-canvas too, if you want. So this would be our second exercise for today. If you feel comfortable, thumbs up, yes, let's try together. So let's spend 5 minutes maybe in these 2 first questions, and then we can go to smaller groups. So I think I'm gonna see if I can share the screen. Yeah. I can organize it more. Thank you for bringing us here again. There we are. Are you seeing my, the self-care canvas? Oh, that's terrific. Oh, good. So I think I'm gonna use these 15 minutes to wrap up a little bit our discussions. I hope you had very interesting discussions in your smaller groups. And We had an excellent discussion in my group, so thank you. And what we want to end this today, our talk about, is self-research and self-awareness, because we want to bring this where to go to when we talk about self-care. And when we talk about self-conscientiology and self-consciousness, especially when we talk about self-conscientiality. So why do I do self-care? Where do I want to go? Why do I take care of this body, of this opportunity of living this life with all the people that are around me? So there are many types of self-conscientiality. There are the bioenergetic one, the cosmoetical, the therapeutic, the evolutionary, the generic, I am one, I'm another one, the graphic, the heuristic, the intellectual, the interexistential. For example, if I'm doing Penta, where I want to go with my self-consciousness. Is it mature? How old am I? How long do I want to live? How do I want to live? The organizational one, the parapsychic, the political, the polykarmic, the somatic, and the verbal. These types of self-conscientiality are the types that maybe I want to, focus myself. Okay, so I'm very much mental somatic, but not so much with my body. So maybe I want to take care of my body a little bit. I know we talked about this in previous encounters. Oh, I'm very good about the interessential one. I take care of people, but I'm not so aware of my bioenergetic, energosomatic. So what type of self-conscientiality I want to develop, and especially how do I want to do this? So the integration of needs and opportunities towards evolutionary intelligence. Maybe that's something that you want to point out in your self-care. The integration of paradigms towards a cosmovisiology. Where do I want to go? So I want to take care of my body. I want to take care of my mind. I want to take care of people. So I can do this in a cosmovision. And where do I want to go? We want to do it through the method for self-research. So when we present to you the self-care canvas and the self-care method that we call FEMA, we want you to do this in a scientific way. We want you to, when you're finding what you want to develop or to focus your energy, your efforts to, you will need to take notes. You will need to read about the diseases, what are their ways of understanding, what is a diabetes, what is a chronic disease, what is osteoarthritis, what is it? So you will need to find the practices that have been used, the evidence there is for these practices. That's why we show you a lot of evidence maps, the steps of doing research. All of these are very important for the first step. And then you're going to do the second step, the embracement step. And for that, you're going to think about your labcom, your environment, the people that you talk about. You're going to think about and use your parapsychism, making connections between the facts and the parafacts. Okay, when I had this, I was young, I had this age, and then now I'm having again with 42 years old. What is going on here? Where can I find these explanations about it? And when are exceptions about it? Am I going to develop my emotional intelligence? Do I want to invest on this? Oh, it's been so long that people are telling me that, or maybe twice in a week that people are telling me I'm too rigid. Maybe I can think about it. Maybe it's something that I could work on it. And then once this step, it's a little bit more developed, worked on, because I'm thinking about forgiveness. I'm thinking about cosmoetics. Maybe I felt injustice, but it was not only me, the problem. Maybe I was part of it. I was causing it, maybe not this time, but in another time. So all of this. And then I can go to the third step, that is move. That's where I think about my experience. I try to connect this theory with the praxis. So the theories, I try to understand this relationship between the crisis and the resting, when I reconnect with the crisis with the possible effects of this crisis. And then I'll think about the exemplaries and maybe even authorship. Maybe what's the effect of authorship when I move? When I'm doing this, what happens when I'm doing the different way of behaving or treating people? Not always I'm gonna get everything ready or correct as I expected. It's hard for me, for example, to be humble, to listen to people. I'm really good of giving directions or giving solutions. So when someone comes to talk to me, I need to, okay, connect with my humble part and connect with my compassion. So I don't try to tell them what to do and then just, look at them and listen to them. So this is me giving an example of the move part and how hard it can be. And sometimes you're not going to make it very good. And you say sorry, and then you try again until it makes more sense to your common life and your habits. And then you start all over again because it's a continuum. The self-research and the self-care, it's a continuum. Okay, I'll be better of listening to people, but I'm still not very good at listening to myself. Okay, so maybe I'll do as a canvas for listening to myself and how I treat myself, and or how I deal with perfectionism. I was last week at the Hong Kong Museum, and they're having this experience where you identify what type of artist you are. So you have some questions and then you have to answer. And then I answered, and then it showed I'm perfectionist type of artist. So it totally makes sense to me. And then I was with my husband, and he's a fashionist. And I wanted to be a fashionist because he mixes styles. And I'm not, I'm really perfectionist. I like it everything very perfect. So that was very interesting for me. So everything you do or everywhere you go, it's part of this process. So invite yourself to maintain the self-care and the self-research that is related to this. Okay, very well. What is the concept of self-research? Self-research is very easy when we think about the concept. Is the study or research on one's own consciousness by itself and of itself, with 1% theory and 90% practice. Okay, that's difficult. And you're going to use techniques and instruments available in the consciential micro-universe and in the cosmos, in which, she is an observer, an investigator, a guinea pig, an agent and participant of her own experiments aimed at self-evolution. So this is the attitude we want when you think about self-care, to think about ourselves as scientists, as a process that we want to make notes and continue the process every time it's necessary. But there is an invitation we want to finish with all of you, is that you don't have to do this in a hard way or all the time, because life is amazing. Life is so special. It invites us to have so many opportunities. So we want to end the bridge today with a concept from Japanese culture, and it's called yutori. And it's intentionally slowing down to simply breathe, listen, and appreciate the beauty of nature and life. Consciously creating space to relax, reflect, and integrate, rather than being constantly busy and rushed. So we don't want it to self-care to be another item in your agenda. Oh, I really need to do this. Oh, I really need to think about it. We want you to be part of the world, and in this way of being, include the self-care in a slow way, in space of your life that can include relaxation and peace and reflection. You see, we don't want it's good or bad, or it's a lot of work or not a lot of work. And if you recently saw Princess Kate testimony about this moment of her life that she's dealing with a cancer and her treatment, she's telling exactly this, how she's taking time to heal and to take care of herself. And sometimes she'll feel good, sometimes she'll feel not so good. So one way of translating yutori is spaceness. So when we want to understand what yutori can mean in our lives, they give some examples. And one example is when you finish to read a poem, or when you finish to watch a sunset and you are in bed, you're part of that sunset still. Or when you finish reading a book and you're still with the story in your mind. And we recently have seen one very famous reader. She just met Machado de Assis, a famous Brazilian writer, and she is in love with Machado de Assis. She says he's as good as Shakespeare for Portuguese. And when she finishes, she brings this. Oh, I'm thinking about this story. I'm thinking about it. So this is space where we allow ourselves to do this. So we want to finish this reflection. We're not going to open to group activity because our time today was too short, but we want you to finish today and think about the last time you read a poem or watch a sunset or finish reading a book, and write down how did you feel about it? How did you feel this space? How was it for you? Sometimes we can cry, sometimes we can laugh, sometimes we can just be, in that moment. And maybe you can try later to apply this experience in relation to your health. So when you're having a headache or a sore throat or a pain from your, a problem that you have, you allow yourself to have this space and just be there doesn't have to be long, just for space, for a moment. And then you can continue in your self-care process in a way that is very easy and relaxed in a very comfortable way. So to finish today, we want to finish our self-work related to self-care, and we invite you all to think about self-consciousness, about your body and emotions, and improve self-awareness, because we talked about it during our encounters, and broaden health and care conceptions. Keep trying different evidence-based ways of caring. We talked about so many of them. Maybe you felt invited to experience or experiment one of those, and improve self-research. Read about health and care. And by doing this, also improve your self-care in a very systematic way, but also in a very relaxed way, understanding the space in this process. So we want to thank you very much for your time and for your experience with us, and this opportunity to share with us your experiences, your problems, and your happiness, and your different goals for self-care. And we wish you all the best. Right, Fernanda? This is our final encounter, but we're really glad you did the bridge. And we're here, so feel free to talk to us anytime you feel like it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. As we gave you a self-work to keep practicing, we are still at your service, so you can connect with us whenever you want, okay? For us, it's a good moment to try to understand this in so many perspectives, so many different consciousness, and it's a really rich process. So thank you so much for being with us and helping us to comprehend much more. Thank you.